Hello students, welcome to your English class. This is our third live class and we will begin with looking at reading skills. So let's today go a bit into the curriculum, class 10 curriculum that has been prescribed by the board. So this will help us get a better understanding of how the whole year will look and what are some important skills that we need to learn. So here you can see that the class 10 English board paper will be divided into three sections. Section A has reading skills, which has a total weightage of 20 marks. Section B is writing skills along with grammar. So that is a total of 30 marks. And then the literature textbooks and supplementary reading, which we have been using, like First Flight or Footprints Without Feet. Those are the textbooks, and from which we'll do chapters and question answers and everything. So the section that will have questions based on that will be also of 30 marks. Now, the total examination will be 80 marks and internals will be 20. So let's look a bit about what the reading section looks like. Um, Here it says that this section will have two unseen passages of a total length of 700 or 750. So not one passage will not be 700. There'll be two passages. So the first would be a factual passage. It'll be of 300 to 350 words with 8 objective type questions. Also includes MCQs. Second would be a discursive passage of 350 to 400 words with 4 short answer type questions to test inference, evaluation and analysis, as well as 4 objective type questions which includes MCQs to test vocabulary. Now, if we look at the past two classes and the third class on Saturday that we've done. So in the first class, our LI was to answer factual questions. And I showed you how we can answer factual questions, which is by reading the question, going back to the text, finding the answer, reading the question again, and then writing the answer. So that is how we answer factual questions, by finding the information in the text. So that would be part of the objective type questions. Now, if you see here vocabulary, again, if you remember that for the past two classes, we've been using a model which has the word in the center. Then we write the dictionary definition. We create a sentence with that. Then we write the synonyms and antonyms. So what will happen here is actually in the board paper, you will be asked synonyms and antonyms of certain words which are in the passage. So developing that skill of knowing different synonyms and antonyms and using the word in a sentence is actually really important for this part here. So that will help. And secondly, on Saturday you were given an unseen passage for which you had to answer multiple different question answers. So what we'll do now is check how we've done in that reading and understanding and answering the questions by looking at the answer key. So let's first look at the passage itself. So Space Junk by Josh Adler. Many people know that trash is a big problem on planet Earth. What many people don't know is that trash has become a problem in outer space too. Years of space exploration have left tons of space junk in orbit around the planet. So if you can see here, this is space junk that's going on around the planet. According to BBC News, there are more than 22,000 pieces of junk in space around the Earth. And there are just the items that we can see from the surface of the Earth. And these are just the items we can see from the surface of the Earth by telescope or radars. There are also millions of smaller pieces of junk that we can't see. Objects like bits of old space rockets or satellites move around the planet at very high speeds, so fast that even a very small piece can break important satellites or become dangerous to people, particularly astronauts. If the tiniest piece of junk crashed into a spacecraft, it could damage that vehicle. That's because the faster an object moves, the greater the impact if the object collides with something else. To make things worse, when two objects in space collide, the two objects break into many smaller pieces. This happened in 2009 when a working United States satellite collided with a Russian satellite that was no longer functioning. The collision caused the satellites to break into more than 2,000 pieces, increasing the items of space junk. To help minimize additional space junk, countries around the world have agreed to limit the time their space tools stay in orbit to 25 years. Each tool must be built to fall safely into the Earth's atmosphere or the mass of gases that surround the Earth. After that, in the upper parts of the atmosphere, it will burn up. Many scientists are also proposing different ways to clean up space junk. In England, a metal harpoon is being tested that can be fired into space trash, grip the trash, and then pull the space junk into the Earth's atmosphere where it would burn up. The Germans have been planning a space mission with robots that would collect pieces of space trash and bring them back to Earth so that they can be safely destroyed. In 2007, the Chinese tried to blow up one of its older satellites with a missile. Unfortunately, the explosion only created thousands of smaller pieces, adding junk in space. In our opinion, the problem is very challenging and it's quite urgent as well, said Marco Castronuovo, an Italian space agency researcher who is working to solve the problem. One reason that it's urgent is that countries are sending more and more objects into space. Many of these objects are tools that help people use their cell phones or computers. The time to act is now. As we go farther in time, we will need to remove more and more fragments, he says. Now let's look at the questions. Number one, what has left tons of space junk in orbit around the Earth? So the first is robots sent on space missions. Second, years of space exploration. Third, lack of recycling. And fourth, missiles in outer space. Now we know that we actually heard about 2 points, B and D, missiles and years of space exploration. So let's go back to the passage and check what the reason is. Years of space exploration have left tons of space junk in orbit around the planet. Okay, so we find the answer in the first paragraph itself. In the third sentence, years of space exploration have left tons of space junk in orbit around the planet. What's the question again? What has left tons of space junk in orbit around the Earth? Years of space exploration. So this is a factual question. The way I answered it is read the question, go back to the passage, find the answer, and then I'll tick here. It's B, years of space exploration. Now let's go to the second question. Countries around the world have agreed to limit the time the space tools stay in orbit to 25 years. As explained in the passage, what problem does this solution address? So we are looking at A, B, C, the increasing amount of space junk in orbit around the Earth, space agencies exploring space. So space agencies exploring space doesn't seem to be a problem. Chinese efforts to blow up a satellite, objects moving around the planet at a very high speeds. So now what we are supposed to find, you must have studied problem and solution, right? So this is a solution here. Countries around the world have agreed to limit the time their space tools stay in orbit to 25 years. As explained in the passage, what problem does this solution address? So this is a solution, and here is a list of problems. So now I need to go back to the passage, check which problem this particular solution is trying to address. Okay, so if I come to objects like here, um, objects move around the planet at very high speeds. This has become dangerous. So objects moving at very high speeds is dangerous. And now we go to this passage. To help minimize additional space junk, countries around the world have agreed. Okay, so these are some points I've found here. Here first it's telling me there's a lot of high speed which is becoming dangerous to people, particularly astronauts. And countries have agreed to help minimize additional space junk. Now let's look at what options I have. Increasing amount of space junk in orbit around the Earth. Okay, so objects moving around planet at high speeds is a problem, yes, but if we see here in the passage, here yes it's given and that the problem is explained, okay, but if we look at the solution, countries around the world have agreed to limit the time their space tools stay in orbit to 25 years to help minimize additional space junk. So that is the problem that this solution is supposed to address. So if we go down, the option we will choose is A, the increasing amount of space junk in orbit around the Earth. Now let's look at number 3. Trash has become a problem in outer space too. What evidence from the text best supports this statement? Okay, so now what we are supposed to do is, this is a statement, trash has become a problem in outer space too. Now we need to support it, like we need to provide evidence that this is true. So where can we find evidence that will tell us that this statement is true? So if we look at A, B, C and D, fired metal harpoon. Okay, so first is telling me this is a solution the Chinese tried. Second is telling me this is a solution that England tried. And the third is telling me that this is a solution that the Germans have tried. So these are all solutions that different countries have tried. According to BBC News, there are more than 22,000 pieces of junk in space around the Earth. Okay, so trash has become a problem in outer space too. According to BBC, there are more than 22,000 pieces of junk in space around the Earth. So I feel that D supports this statement. This is a problem that needs to be proven, not what are the different solutions. So these are different solutions to this problem, but we need to prove that there is a problem. So this statement actually tells us that, oh my god, okay, there are 22,000 pieces of junk, that is a problem. So this is the evidence that best supports this statement. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Why have countries agreed to build space tools that must fall safely into the Earth's atmosphere? So let's look at the 4 options. So the first option is telling me that so that the tools can remove pollution. Nowhere in the passage, I'll go back to the passage and I'll see that nowhere in the passage are we talking about using this as removing pollution. If you look at B, so that the tools burn up in the atmosphere and don't become space junk. Yes, this I saw in the passage. They should burn up in the atmosphere and don't become space junk. Yes. It will burn up. Yes. In the upper parts of the atmosphere, it will burn up. Also proposing different ways. Again, it would burn up. Right? Germans Yes, so we are looking a lot about the space junk burning up. What so that the tools burn up in the atmosphere and don't become space junk. Yes, I found that. So that the tools pollute the atmosphere instead of outer space. This again, pollution, I did not find anywhere that, that instead of outer space it should pollute the atmosphere, so that the tools can analyze the different gases that make up the atmosphere after returning from space. Again, this is something that I did not find in the passage. So we will be looking at B, so that the tools burn up in the atmosphere and don't become space junk. All right, so I have shown you how we can find the answers to each of these questions. For the rest of the questions, I'll be adding a link to the answer key, and I'll also be sharing it with you over as PDF. So let's move on to our class. So for class today, again, we'll be looking at a letter to God. The LIs that we are going to look at today is first answer, short answer type and long answer type questions. So these are question types that will come in your exam paper and something that we'll be practicing in your tests throughout this year. The next one is infer a character's motivations, traits and beliefs based on evidence from the text. Next is identify the main idea of a text. And then finally identify and interpret metaphors in a text. So today we have a longer class. We'll be doing multiple LIs. So let's start. If we look at your homework, thinking about the text, there were two questions from there which I have picked here so that we can look at the answers together. The first one is, did Lencho try to find out who had sent money to him? Why not? Okay, so if you look at this question, there are two parts to this question. The first is factual. So did Lencho try to find out who had sent the money to him? Factual means it is there in the text. Like if you go back to the text, you will find the exact answer over there. Next is why or why not. Here we need to infer why or why not. This is not a factual question because inferring is where we need to conclude something from evidence and reasoning rather than from explicit statements. Explicit statements meaning it's already there in the text. Okay, this is why Lencho did not find out who had sent the money to him. Okay, if the author already tells us why, then that is a explicit statement. Then this will count as a factual question because then we just need to go back to the text and find out the answer. However, it is not like that. This answer is not given to us by the author. This is an answer we need to find out by thinking about all the different evidence and facts that the author has given us. Alright, so this is what inferring means, to conclude something from evidence and reasoning rather than from explicit statements. So if we look at the answer, factual answer is no. Lencho did not try to find out who had sent the money to him. We know that because he did not by reading at the story. Now we need to infer why. So in the story, it is not actually written why Lencho did not try to find out who had sent him money. We need to infer based on evidence in the text. So if we look at the inference, it is evidence in the story. We'll see here, evidence in the story shows that Lencho had blind, childlike faith in God. When he received the money, he believed that his prayers had been answered and that God had sent him what he had asked for. So first question's answer is here, no, Lencho did not. And the answer to the second question is here. And then putting it all together, the answer is here, Lencho did not try to find out who had sent the money. Lencho had blind, childlike faith in God. When he received the money, he believed that his prayers had been answered and that God had sent him what he had asked for. So if you see, there's a total of 43 words. Usually short answer type questions need to be between 30 to 40 words, not longer than that. If you want, you can make it longer, but then you're just wasting time because that is not expected. So if we look at homework now for this, like this, based on this question, you have homework for today. So you need to find evidence from the text that supports the following statements. Lencho had blind, childlike faith in God. he believed that God had sent him the money he had asked for. Now, this type of question you saw in your unseen passage, where I just showed you how we need to find evidence from the text which proves a statement. So, here is a statement that I have written, and you need to find evidence from the text which will support it. And here, so the inference that we need to make in the previous question is already given here. And now your role for this homework is to find evidence which will support this inference. So please note down this question for homework. We are not doing it as independent practice because it's better that you take some time and think about it as part of homework. So we'll move on to the next short answer type question. Are there people like Lencho in the real world? Sorry, one second. Yes. Are there people like Lencho in the real world? What kind of a person would you say he is? Then you need to select the appropriate words from a box given in your textbook. If you've seen this question, there's a box which has greedy, naive, stupid, ungrateful, selfish, comical, unquestioning. So for this question, what you needed to do was two things. First is connect the text to your own experience. And second is to infer character traits. So these are the character traits, right? Now, nowhere in the text has the author told us that Lencho is naive, or Lencho is greedy, or Lencho is stupid. The author did not tell us. But we can infer, we can conclude based on what evidence and facts have already been given in the story. So we need to give our reasoning, find the evidence, and then decide what word would best describe, word or words would best describe Lencho. So in the first question, are there people like Lencho in the real world? Here you need to connect it to your own experience. So what this means is connections that a reader makes between a piece of reading material and the reader's own experiences or life. So an example of text to self connection might be, this story reminds me of a vacation we took to my grandfather's farm. So something that you have experienced in the real world. So the question asks, are there people like Lencho in the real world? So you need to think about that. Yes or no. And then you need to give your reason. And then the second question, what kind of person would you say he is? Now, of course, you need to give your opinion, but it needs to be an informed opinion. And that is why this is an inferring question, where you need to infer what type of a person he is by all the different evidence from the text, and you need to provide your reasoning. So if you look at how the answer will look like, first it would be like yes or no, depending on you. There are or aren't people like Lencho in the real world. You need to decide yes or no. And then Lencho seems to be a dash kind of a person. You can write anything: greedy, naive, unquestioning, comical, selfish, because this is the important part. Here you can write anything, but if this is not strong enough to support this, then you will not get marks because you have not been able to logically support your choice of what you think Lencho is like. So I hope this is clear about how we need to have really strong evidence and reasoning when we are inferring something or sharing our opinion. Okay, so now what we'll move on to is the next LI, which is finding the main idea. So today we'll learn a bit about how we can find what the main idea of a text is. So let's look at what main idea means. So main idea includes the overall message of the text that a writer intends to convey to the audience. So almost all genres of literature have one or two main ideas in them. However, the main idea in literature is not limited to one sentence or any one paragraph. Like in the story or in the text, it develops and grows throughout the text. So, after, now we are looking at main idea after we have finished reading A Letter to God, because we need to read through the whole story and think a bit about it in order to really find out what the main idea is. It works as the central unifying element of the story, which ties together all the other elements. So, in this sense, it can best be defined as the dominant impression, the most, like strongest impression you got of the story, or the generic truth incorporated in the literary piece. So, which is that one truth or two really important things that really come out to us when we read the entire story and think about it. So let's look at how we find the main idea. So there are 3 points or steps that we look at when we are trying to find the main idea. So first is we have to look for repetition of ideas throughout the text. So there'll be some topics or some themes or some, just value points that are repeated again and again and again throughout the text. We need to look for that. Second is think how you would summarize the story for your friend. And third is look at points 1 and 2 and think about what overall message the author wants to convey to us. So if we look in detail about the first point. So when you're trying to do the first step, there are some questions that you can ask yourself. So the first is, what are some topics, points, or ideas that are discussed again and again throughout the text? The second question you can ask is, what are some topics that came into your mind when you were reading the story and after you finished reading the story? So these are two questions that we can ask ourselves. Now let's look at the second point. Think how you would summarize the story for your friend. So here the first thing we can ask ourselves or think about is when you retell the story to your friend. So think of a friend and you are just telling them the story. Which are some important details you will share. So anytime if you watch a movie and you go and tell your friend, oh, you have to watch this movie, and your friend asks you, okay, what is the movie about? What is the basic storyline? You're not going to tell them 2 hours worth of details, right? You'll not say, okay, first this happened, then this happened, then this happened for 2 hours. You're going to summarize it in short and tell them, okay, this is basically what the movie is about, so this is why you should see it. So same way, this story, how will you summarize to your friend if you want them to read this story? So second is think about movie trailers. So there is a movie of 2 to 3 hours, but they show us within a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, they show us the basic plot, the main idea, the themes, major characters and their traits within a couple of minutes. So if you think you are creating a movie trailer for A Letter to God, what will you add there? So these are 2 points we can think about when we are trying to summarize. Let's look at the third point. In the third point, basically what we need to do is look at point 1 and 2 and think about what overall message the author wants to convey to us. So here we look at first is, what is the dominant impression you get when looking at both points? And then if you had to write a moral of the story at the end, what would it be? So if A Letter to God does not have a moral of the story, but if you wanted to write a moral of the story, what would you write? And third, can you connect this piece to other pieces you have read before? So you read this story now, but you have read many other stories before. Can you connect the overall message of this story to the message in other pieces you have read or experiences you have had? So this is how we think about the 3 different points when finding the main idea. So what we will do today is find the main idea in the story A Letter to God. So I will do it, by looking at these 3 points. Please do it along with me. So let's look at the first one. Look for repetition of ideas throughout the text. Okay, so one idea that is around across the whole story is God, right? Title itself has A Letter to God, so in title also God is there. Then we start with God willing the rain will come, and then he writes a letter to God, and again God, God, God till the end. In the end again he writes a letter to God where he's asking him to send the rest of the money. So God is all across the story. The second one, letter or post office. So again, we look at letter to God is, letter is again in the title. Then we see him write a letter. Then we see a lot of activity that's happening in the post office. The postmaster becomes an important character because he is the one who gives him the money. And finally, again, he writes a letter. Lencho writes a letter to God. So letter and post office are also pretty strongly topics or ideas that are across the story. The third one is faith. So faith basically is having a sort of belief or a trust, right? And we see Lencho has this trust or this belief that God will send him the money. Again, the postmaster, the reason he gives Lencho the money is because he doesn't want to shake his faith in God. So faith is pretty strongly, discussed or questioned or looked at throughout the story. And then finally, we see money. So the whole point of the story is that Lencho needs money, right? So because his crops failed, so he needs money. He asks God for money. The postmaster collects the money. Postmaster gives him the money. The money is less for Lencho, and again he asks for more money. So these are the four really important, ideas or themes or topics that really come out at us as we read through the story. So let's go a bit deeper into each of these topics. Okay, this is a superficial idea. Okay, this is what I'm seeing in the story. Now, if we look deeper for this, so first, God. So there is a difference in belief of what God can and cannot do. The difference is between Lencho and the postmaster. So Lencho believes that God can send him money through a mail, and the postmaster believes that no, God will not. This will not reach God because they don't know where God lives or where to send that letter. So the postmaster knows that God will not be receiving this letter and God will not be sending the money to Lencho. So there is a difference in belief of what God can and cannot do between the postmaster and Lencho. The second is letter or post office. So if we look at the postal system, it's a system which is created by human beings and it is operated by human beings. It's not part of nature or something that naturally exists. The postal system is something that we have created for our convenience. Then the third is faith. Faith is an individual's choice. So what we choose to believe, who we choose to trust, where we choose to put our faith in, that is a choice that individuals make. And fourth is money. So money is again a system which is created and operated by humans. It does not exist in the natural world. It's actually pieces of paper that we have assigned value to. So it's our system which we use to buy and sell goods. So that's going a bit deeper into the ideas that we see throughout the story. Let's look at the second point. So think how you would summarize the story to your friend. So the way I would summarize the story is a farmer's crops are destroyed due to an act of nature. He writes a letter to God to ask for 100 pesos. The postmaster does not want to shake the farmer's faith and collects 70 pesos to give him from God's side. Now, instead of being grateful, the farmer accuses the post office employees of stealing the 30 pesos. So this is basic summary of this story. Now, I'll move on to the third point. I will look at both first and second and think about the overall message. So first we see farmer wants God's help, but through post and in money, which are systems that are created and operated by humans. So there is a clear distinction between, God and what humans have created and operate for us in our minds, right? That is why we believe that Lencho is sort of childlike and a little naive, because he's not able to distinguish that this is not something that God is involved in. This is something that we all have created. So I'm seeing that farmer wants God's help, but through systems which have been created by us humans. Second is the postmaster, who is part of operating the system, offers money to the farmer in the name of God. So it may not have been as much as what the farmer wanted, but it is as much as the humans around him can offer. then it is humans who are doing the farmer a good deed by offering him their hard-earned money. So these are human beings who have worked, they are doing their jobs and they are earning this money. This is their salary, which would go into running their houses. However, in order to help the farmer, they are, contributing and giving him that money. So it is they who are doing the good deed. However, the farmer insults this goodwill by calling the same humans who gave him their money crooks. So this is where we discuss there is an irony in this, like irony in this part of the story where instead of being grateful to the humans, he's calling them crooks. And then finally, he does not for a moment think that there might be something wrong on God's end. So he has blind faith and trust in God that God has sent 100 pesos. He does not think God must have done something wrong. He immediately thinks. So his mind is such that instead of thinking in any for any other reasons, he immediately thinks that the humans, the people in the post office are crooks. So a very negative impression that comes to him about the human beings who are around him, who ironically have actually done a very good deed for him. So basically now if we look at all these points, um, let's look at the independent practice here. So after having gone through all 3 points, what do you think are 1 to 2 main ideas, the central message the author wants to convey of a letter to God? Now, what you're going to do is write down this question and write the answer to it. But before you do that, it's you should understand that there is no perfect answer. Your words can be different, what you emphasize can be different, how you look at certain evidence may also differ. Everyone will have a different perspective. So some may find there is only one main idea, some may find there are two main ideas. That is also fine. But what is important is that we are supporting it through evidence and through a logical argument. So please note this down and do the independent practice. You have 2 minutes. Okay, so if you need some more time, please feel free to pause the video. If you want to go back and look at some of the points that I have mentioned for finding main idea, please feel free to do that. We'll move forward now, but again, if you want to take some more time, please take some more time and only then move ahead, because it's important you do this independently by yourself before I discuss the solution. So please complete your work and then like unpause the video. So pause the video now. Those who have completed, let's move ahead. So I will now share what according to me is the main idea of this text. This may not be what you see as the main idea of the story. So literature is open to interpretation. There is no one right answer. However, one needs to A, provide evidence from the text to prove their answer, and or B, provide a logical argument to justify their answer in order for it to make sense. So it's really important to be able to justify the whatever, you know, main idea, or even any other thing, like if you're inferring a character trait, that you are providing evidence and providing a logical argument to show why that evidence proves what you have stated, the statement you have made. So this is basically really important to understand. There is no one right answer, so don't think that what I have written is the correct answer. So let's look at the my thought process. So my first thought is about how Lencho unconsciously has faith in systems created by humans, like the post and money, but does not have faith in actual humans to do what is right or good. My second thought questions the content of Lencho's faith in God. It is very transactional. Transactional is, in Hindi we say len den, sort of, giving something and getting something in return. So for Lencho, it is about God giving what Lencho wants, and exactly what he wants. So exactly 100 pesos, not even 70. It is not about acceptance. He's not accepting, okay, there was, because nature, if he's someone who believes in God, then he should believe that, okay, that hail was because of God, right? So nature is all controlled by God, if for someone who believes in God. So he's not accepting, okay, maybe this is what God wanted. His wife said, yes, God willing, in the story. He's not even thinking that maybe there is somewhere where I need to see this as a challenge and find a different way, or see it as an opportunity to change myself. He's not thinking about all of those things. He is thinking, okay, God has to give me this much money, like that. So Lencho does not think this as a test from God, or does not feel grateful that God has kept some good people around him, like the postal employees who are helping him. In fact, he doubts those people around him. So now, after having these two, points in my head, taking the three steps and, kind of getting these 2 points in my head, my main idea would be Lencho had faith in his image of God, but lacked faith in other humans and humanity. So this is the main idea that I have come up with. Please see if this makes sense to you. So what we did till now is find the main idea of the story, A Letter to God. What we did was look at the 3 different steps that we can use to find the main idea of the story. We went in detail of each of those steps. We used those steps to find the main idea for A Letter to God, and this is what we have finally come up with. This is the main idea from my end. You have also noted the main idea that you have felt. What we will do now is a long answer type question. So there are 2 types of questions that you will see in your board exams: short answer type and long answer type, when you are going to your literature section. So the long answer type question, if you look at, Section C. Internal choice, 2 short answer type questions on interpretation, 5 short answer type in 30 to 40 words each, from First Flight and Footprints Without Feet, and long answer type questions from the book First Flight to be answered in about 100 to 150 words. So this would be for 8 marks. Right. Now what we'll do is practice one long answer type question, but this is for homework. So I gave you one short answer type question for homework. Now you'll be doing a different one. So this is the question. Lencho had faith in God but lacked faith in humanity. Elaborate with reference to a letter to God for 100 to 150 words. So this is an inverted question. In class, what we did was analyze the text to find the main idea. However, in this question, main idea has already been given. Lencho had faith in God but lacked faith in humanity. So I've already given you the main idea. Now what you need to do is find evidence to prove it and provide logical arguments to justify this sentence. So you can use everything we discussed in the 3 steps where we found the main idea for your answer here. So how we did step 1, 2, 3 and then found the main idea. Now the main idea is here already there. So all the points that we discussed in step 1, 2 and 3 is something that you can use and note down here. So some guidelines is write clearly and concisely to ensure all points are covered within the word limit. Next, to do this, first write down all the points you need to cover. So don't immediately start writing the answer, because what happens is if we write with our thought process, we may not be clear, or sometimes we'll repeat the same things, or sometimes we're writing longer than is necessary. So first write down all the points that you need to cover and then frame them into a paragraph. Finally, write in your own words. Please write it in your own words. Don't copy sentences or statements either from the textbook or from what I have shared here today. Think about, of course, read it, think about it, and then write it in your own words. We've had a really long class today, so I hope everything you've understood everything and nothing has been too difficult, or I haven't taken things too fast. If I have, please feel free to watch this again, take breaks in the middle, however you want to do it, because we have covered a lot in today's class. There is one more thing that remains to be covered, but it's very small and quick. So what remains to be covered is identifying and interpreting metaphors. Now I'm not going to go into detail for metaphors because you have done this before in your earlier English classes. It's just important for you to understand it in short so that you can take it forward in your homework. So let's look at what it is. So do you remember what figure of speech we learned in our last class? We learned about irony, and it's something that we've been talking about and we talked about in today's class as well. So that's a figure of speech we learned about. Today we'll be discussing metaphor. So metaphors compare two things or ideas. A quality or feature of one thing is transferred to another thing. And if you want to look at as a comparison to simile, so sometimes we say as good as or as pink as, right? Or she's like this. So a metaphor is comparison between two different things without using like or as. So if you look at some examples here, Franklin has a heart of gold. Now he doesn't actually have a heart of gold. The meaning is that he has a very good heart. So we see gold having really good qualities. It's very precious and it's beautiful. So when we say Franklin has a heart of gold, then he has a really good heart. Now if we see here, he's a walking encyclopedia, right? So is this person actually someone who looks like an encyclopedia and is walking? No. that person is a person, but he's being called a walking encyclopedia. Why? So encyclopedia is something which, has all the information. If you need to find out something, then you need to just open an encyclopedia and find the information from there. So if we call someone a walking encyclopedia, what we are doing is we are using a metaphor to show how smart they are, how they have all the information with them. Now, if we see, Mary's voice is music to my ears. Now, actually, her voice is not music, her voice is her voice. But music to my ears means that person is really happy to hear Mary's voice, just like we are happy to hear music. You are my sunshine. Again, that person is not actually a sunshine. That person is a person, but how we look at sunshine, it's bright and warm and makes us happy. So same way, this person is bright and warm and makes us happy, so we call that person sunshine. So that is metaphor. We are not saying you are like sunshine, we are saying you are my sunshine. We are not saying Franklin's heart is like gold. We are saying Franklin has a heart of gold, like he has a heart of gold. We are not saying he is like a walking encyclopedia. We are saying he's a walking encyclopedia. So this is what metaphor is. And again, you have probably done this before, so you have a pretty good idea about what metaphors mean. Now let's move on to our end of the class with homework. Here we have the homework. So the first question is something that you have already noted, but I have noted it again so that we know all the three, questions we have to do for homework. So please just copy this down. All right, so we had a long class today. Hopefully, everyone got to take some breaks in the middle, and it wasn't too much. We didn't have a class on Saturday. You were mainly doing the comprehension passage. So we needed to do, kind of go through that comprehension passage as well, and kind of finish up with our A Letter to God chapter. So again, feel free to watch this again. If you've not understood anything, please do reach out to your teachers. Just share what you have not understood with them. And please complete your homework before tomorrow's class. Thank you.